Hey, Josh here,
Hey, what's up?
and that's Mike, and we're real dead. And I'm coming to you from a location, uh, you know, location unknown. It's a mystery, but I am here, and Mike is here from his house, dungeon of horrors, we call it. And Mike, what movie are we discussing tonight on live?
Josh, your vehicle there kind of reminds me of the movie we're watching, the background of it. Kind of the whole light and the horror thing going on. But how about the 1973 The Exorcist?
Yes. So I wanted to give a little backdrop, and then Mike can kind of give a little backdrop from him. Um, I have never seen this movie all the way through, ever. So this was a first time watch for me. There was a lot of hype, there was a lot of this and that, and I watched the movie with. I think I watched it with an open mind. I was giving it a real shot. Um, but I don't really have any experience with it. So, Mike, you kind of grew up in a time where this was more hyped and more like a bigger part of the culture. So, go ahead and tell your experience with this movie.
Yeah, I kind of hope somebody comes in here tonight that's probably 10 years older than me because they could really give us some information on it. Maybe a Art or Peg will come in or something. Um, but yeah, 1973, I was two. But this is it. I remember from probably the age of 5 or 6, kindergarten age, seeing my mother read a lot of books, and everybody knows that my mother is a big influence on me in the horror genre because she exposed me to it early. But I remember seeing the purplish book that said The Exorcist, and that thing was a big, thick book. And I didn't even want to come next to it. I mean, I didn't want to even be near it. I kept hearing how horrible it was. Just the book itself scared me. Just looking at it, the cover. I wish I had a photo or something like that we could show, but it just scared me. Now, I probably didn't see this movie till I was probably 12. So it was probably 12 years after it, early 80s probably.
Okay.
And it it got me, man, because I grew up in church. You grew up in the South and the North South, as Ronnie calls it, and it was just the first time I remember, even back in the early '80s, seeing a movie. I remember seeing a movie called Rosemary's Baby. I can't remember what year that came out, but they came. I mean, I saw The Exorcist right before that, and it just scared the daylights out of me, man. It just really, really scared me back then. And again, I was, 10, 11, 12 years old. And this movie, I don't know if you know this, Josh, this movie actually was close to getting an X rating.
Oh,
And they gave
that,
it an R rating intentionally so that parents could bring their kids to watch it because they wanted them to see what it was like for a exorcism because this book was based off of, it wasn't identical to it, but based off, I don't remember if it was Emily Rose or whoever, but it was based off a real life exorcism. All the details are not exact by far, but it was based off of that. And of
right. And
course,
that,
in the movie, it talks about many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, before they'd had an exorcism.
right, right. It does definitely say that it's been a long time. Like they don't even practice exorcisms anymore because they have the knowledge that basically that preacher said, or that, I don't know, what do you call those guys? Not preachers. What do you call them?
Priest.
Priests. Basically the one priest, what was his name, Mike?
Father, I can't remember the old guy.
Yeah, no, not the real old guy, the younger guy,
Karis.
Karis. He comes to the mother and says, like, hey, we have a lot more knowledge about things nowadays that they didn't back then when they did a lot of exorcisms, because people were given exorcisms when they had like a mental illness or this or that or whatever, and people thought they were possessed when they weren't really. So, and they also said people have, like people actually died during exorcisms. I mean, they just did because that's how, they could be brutal. And I think that's when you're talking about the Emily Rose. She actually died during her exorcism, and it was like a big deal because the priest was actually, I think, on trial for murder. or whatever. I think I'm not 100% sure. I know they didn't take everything from the book, but they later made another movie about Emily Rose. But yeah, let's get to this movie, Mike. Do you want to
So
talk about this
I
rate?
just I
You want
just
to talk
want to
about
bring
this?
I want to also want to emphasize this, and we got 12 people in here strong. So thank you all for coming and being with us tonight. Hey, we're flexing a
Yeah,
little bit that we got 12. Um,
yeah.
all right, four of those are mine. But so Antoinette, fun, good to see you in here. Megs and C's, Traveling Gilberts, Betsy, Meg, but
Gregory.
Billy J, Ventures Ahead. But Ronnie brought up, I think it's Ronnie, maybe Teresa said, this was a very controversial. It was. That's the thing about this movie, and we'll get into it more in a little bit. Is this movie was so controversial for its time in the 70s? Because number one, you had Exorcism that we talked about that had been, really hundreds of years before last time it was done, maybe quite a few hundred years ago.
Yeah,
In
it
the
wasn't
Catholic,
practiced regularly. Yeah.
right? Also, you had a child. The movie was based off a 12-year-old little girl that was possessed. The language that came out of that girl's mouth, with the F bombs and the graphics and everything else, for that time period was, it's kind of like the modern day Terrifier, where you heard people were passing out in the movie theaters. They were throwing up, they were vomiting, they
Right.
were fainting, having heart attacks. Women were going into labor. Some women lost their baby supposedly, and they were blaming it on it. Of course, all that probably had nothing to do with it,
Well,
other than them just getting excited about it. But
also
it
people
was
did that
very
during the Blair
controversial.
Witch, Mike.
Huh?
People also those were also accounts like that happened
Yeah.
supposedly during the Blair Witch Project as well.
Yeah. So those, it just tells you the cultural phenomenon or the hype on it that everybody just got really tore up over it.
So hey, just to let you know, Mike, I cannot read the chat at all from where I'm sitting, so you're gonna have to be responsible for that,
Well,
dude.
you let me know when in between things, might read some stuff in the chat, and I will. But yeah, we got
Okay.
11, 12 people in here. Good to see everybody in here tonight. And again,
Okay.
this is a very, very, very opinionated movie. People have strong opinions about this movie.
Right. So let's talk about the critic score for a minute, Mike. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 85% critics. Pretty high. Pretty high. It has an 87% for the fans. So that's a pretty high score, Mike. Definitely.
Have we done a horror movie that's got that high of ratings?
I think so.
Which one?
I think I think
It's got to
I
be in the
think Blair
top two or three.
I think Blair Witch is pretty high, if I remember right.
Yeah. Silence of the Lambs was pretty high too. Sixth Sense
Yeah.
was pretty high.
Oh, Sixth Sense was in the 90s, I think.
Yep.
Hey, Friday the 13th Part 3, I mean, that was pretty high.
That is a stinker. Stinker.
So listen, um, so what do you think about that? You think that rating is pseudo? I mean, do you think that rating? I mean, I guess we don't want to get into our rating right now, so maybe
Well,
we
you
shouldn't
want me
say
to
that.
keep
But
it real? Do you want me? Is that what you're asking, Mike? Will you keep it real?
well,
With
we won't say it. We won't talk about that just yet. Let's get to the rating a little later. So let's. How does this movie? Do you have the synopsis for this movie, Mike?
I think I have it on Rotten Tomatoes over here. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Okay.
So it doesn't have a lot of the synopsis here. It just says, here's just some movie info, and then I can kind of give it just a two-liner. One of the most profitable horror movies ever made, this tale of an exorcism is based loosely on the actual events when a young Reagan, Linda Blair, starts acting odd, levitating, speaking in tongues. Her worried mother, Ellen Burstyn, seeks medical help only to hit a dead end. A local priest, Jason Miller, however, thinks the girl may be seized by the devil. The priest makes a request to perform an exorcism, and the church sends in an expert, Max von Sydow, to help with a difficult job. Of course, rated R. This is a big one, $12 million to make it. And the U.S. box office gross, $441.4 million.
Right, right. I like this type of movie nowadays would never make that kind of money. It just wouldn't. Because for
It's
one,
already been done.
well, for one, I don't think exorcism it's not taken seriously at all. I mean, it's movie fodder nowadays, really. It just is. back then it was its first. I don't know if it was the first, because I don't know, if it was done like, like somewhere else in like Italy or France, because they made a lot of like horror movies and stuff. But in the U.S., I'm pretty sure it was the first that did this kind of a movie, and I can see a lot of good things about this movie, Mike. Honestly, and I'm gonna go through some. But I do say the main character is Reagan, and she's played by Linda Blair, which she does a great job in this movie. I can't take anything away from her acting. She did a great job. She did a great job of acting possessed and all of that she was asked to do in this movie, Mike, at 14 years old. Just a really great job on that. Some of the other actors is a little less desired, in my opinion.
Which ones? I mean, I didn't think the acting was bad at all in this movie.
I didn't think the mother was great. I thought Father Karras was pretty good. Though he was trying to be Rocky before Rocky.
No, 1973. He wasn't trying to be Rocky, but Rocky Balboa copied Priest Karras. He had the gray sweatpants and everything. I mean, Rocky Balboa copied him. Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, it was just funny. Yeah. I thought the music was really good in this, especially the theme, the Exorcist theme. I love that. It's great. It holds up. It's very creepy, no doubt. I love the music. So yeah. I thought the effects look really great when she was possessed. Those look really good. When she was levitating, it looked pretty good. I thought all that was great, Mike. What are some things that you liked about it?
First of all, I think context is huge in this movie. Again, 1973. As you mentioned, the job Linda Blair did at 14 years old, acting like a 12-year-old, is just phenomenal. I mean, for a 12-year-old or 14, I mean, I'm thinking my son's 12, about to turn 13. I'm like, I can't imagine him acting that out. Now, Linda Blair did read the book ahead of time before playing the part. And also a little hint, they actually wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to play this role, but the mother said no. Ain't no way. Jamie Lee Curtis said absolutely not. Also, the two priests in this movie, Jack Nicholson and Paul Newman, were interested in playing it, but they didn't go with either one of them, which was really ironic. But early 70s, the film work in this, the head twisting around, the head twisted around again in another scene later on in the movie, the whelps and the cuts on the face for back then, the eyes being a different color for back in 1973, the whole cold room with when she was talking, or the demon was talking, was it Pazuzu? Pazuzu, I think is the name of the demon.
Pazuzu.
But it was talking out in the breath coming from it. There's a lot of things behind this movie that, growing up in the South and reading the Bible, and I'm not, this is not a religious show, don't get me wrong, but you read things in the Bible that you would see bits and pieces of in this movie, and you're like, dang, what if that really happened? What if that did happen? I mean, I mean, it's just in my, going back and watching it now, it's not a jump scare movie. It's not a
nope.
It's more of a in the moment scariness to it to me.
I thought one of the things I thought was cool is when, like, on her stomach it said "help me," like she was writing on her stomach from inside of herself. Like it said "help me" on her stomach. That was really cool. I thought that was a cool effect. I did mention the full rotation of the head was pretty cool.
I mean, the bed vibrating up and down, and then the bed in the movie going all the way up and coming back down, and then her going up and back down. Now, it did look like she was laying on a table, but I didn't see strings. Like, for example, and this is a good point. 1973, this movie came out, right? When did Poltergeist come out? Early 80s?
82 or 81, something like that.
The scene of the stuff blowing around in the room in
Yeah.
1973 in this movie was 10 times, 100 times better than Poltergeist 12 years later. I mean, that
Yeah.
stuff looked real. You didn't see strings and craziness. I just thought the film work on it was really good. I mean, it's a dark movie too.
Right. And I thought one of the other things I thought was cool was when she was using like Father Karras's mother's voice to like trick him and all that. I thought that was pretty cool. And then the whole room, how it was like freezing cold in there, was with all their breath, that was looking really cool. Um, so, and then the one thing I had a question about was like, wait, she killed both priests? I mean, technically she did. I mean, she did, and Pazuzu did, but so both priests were technically dead. Um, I thought the ending was really weird, Mike. In my
Both
opinion,
priests died.
yeah,
The
the old
one
guy
priest,
had like a heart attack.
I didn't think he was dead though, did he?
He was just laying
Did he?
there. I don't know. I thought he did.
I thought only Father Karras is the one that passed away. Maybe I'm wrong.
And then the other guy jumped out the window because he got possessed. Um, but I thought the ending was like abrupt. It was like boom, and then it was over.
Yep.
Like that was a little off-putting to me because it was just like out the
Did
window.
you watch the director's
fine.
cut or the other version, the original version?
No, I watched the original version because I
Okay.
know the director's cut's got some extra stuff in it where she's like going down the stairs like on her arms or like backwards or whatever.
So
And
in the
stuff. I
very
didn't.
end of at the very end of this one, how does it end? Once that happens and they get in the car, what happens?
They're just everything's fine.
They don't. The car doesn't stop, and the priest comes back and sees the mother, and she hands him the necklace. Did you see that
Is that?
version?
Oh yeah, that's what happens.
Oh, that's where you fell asleep.
So I will be real. Do you want to read some of the chat real quick before I get into before I
Yes,
go on a
I'm gonna
rant,
go
Mike?
back and read chat. So you guys hang with me right here.
Yep.
Captain Billy J says ahoy.
Please don't call him Captain in here, Mike.
Ventures Head says hello, everyone. Megan C says, heck, this movie scares me now. Me and my wife watched it again the other night. It definitely is creepy, especially the voices. Adventures Ahead. There is a movie, Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I like that movie a lot. Okay. Antoinette at Fun says hello, Meg. DNG says hello. It was a good movie. The Traveling Gilbert say, I think the key to this whole movie was you were hoping the whole time that their faith held true. That's the thing about it. In this movie, that's a good point. A good point from the Gilberts is the family, Reagan and her mother, are not religious at all. The two that was religious were the priests,
Right.
because neither one of them believed. Now, at the very end of the movie, you see Reagan look at the what do you call it? The collar. It's got a special name to it. The priest's collar, and then I think it triggers a memory for her, and she gives up and gives him a kiss on the cheek or kiss,
Oh,
and then
yeah,
she goes
yep.
back and gets in the car. So I think that was a memory because they said that she didn't remember nothing of it, but when she saw his collar, it triggered something.
That's right.
So who else we got in here? DNG says it was big for its time. DNG laughs at you about saying 3D. The Exorcist, okay, this is the Traveling Gilberts. The Exorcist is no doubt one of the best horror films ever. Broke ground for a whole genre of films. I agree with that.
I'm gonna be making the Gilberts pretty angry tonight, ain't it, Mike?
You probably will, Josh. You're getting ready to make me real angry. DNG says, I do not think it was scary. Traveling Gilberts, did you watch it back then or later? DNG says, I watched it later. Cruising with Keith says, hello, everyone. The pea soup vomit. Cruising with Keith. Good to see you in here. Good to see everybody in here. So Meg says, yeah, the religious component did a lot when I was young watching it. I think it does as well. And Antoinette at Fun says, no sleep for me tonight. DNG Explorer says, I was laughing at the 3D they tried on Friday the 13th. It was horrible. Worst movie I ever saw. No, they didn't say that.
There's a long comment that you skipped to the Gilberts, dude.
Where, at the top?
Right above where DNG said Emily Rose was good. Towards the bottom.
He's not down there yet.
Oh, you're not down there? Yeah,
I'm down there now, and I don't see what you're saying.
They said evil was the hot topic. You're not seeing that, dude? It's like a freaking paragraph.
I'm not seeing that on the live over here, Josh.
No. They must have deleted it.
Oh, well, I can see it. Evil was a hot topic around the country during that time. Manson family was convicted just 2 years earlier, and the country was still talking about it. The Exorcist comes out, and then the
Oh, I
image
can see it. I can see this on StreamYard, but I can't see it on YouTube. I wonder if it got blurred out for some reason. Huh. Interesting.
Oh, they deleted it. What the heck?
said,
they got scared.
Oh, come on. So, in other words, we don't need to read it no more.
Okay, so listen. So, to me, I'm okay. I have bad about this movie, and I'm gonna discuss it just in a minute. But to me, if it isn't the exorcism stuff with her possessed, this movie is boring as hell. Boring as hell. Not interesting, slow, and I don't think I'm ever going to watch this movie ever again, to be honest. I've watched it once, and I'm good. Mike, you don't have to have
I'm
the
sorry, Josh. I'm sorry.
Hey, this isn't Lovey's Thursday night, bro.
I accidentally hit a button over here when I was trying to get around.
Yeah, this isn't Lovey's Thursday night, but listen, seriously.
It's talking about that stinker you just said.
One and done for me. I don't think it's an all-time great movie. Listen, it did break a lot of ground. I understand that. And the special, like I told you, I said all the good things. The music's great. The special effects hold up. Some of the scenes in the movie are really good. But besides that, it's just a lot of they could have listen, this movie was over 2 hours long. This movie could have been an hour and a half.
I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I didn't need to see the investigating part of this. I thought that was kind of, the guy. He was he was probably the worst actor in it. I didn't need to see the priest running around the track and the guy watching him run around the track.
He was hitting the bag, the bag like Rocky, like I said. This is some of the bad things I had to say about this movie, Mike. I said very boring open. There was nothing that grabbed me in the open of this. Not really. And I said the one thing that was kind of cool was that statue Pazuzu was kind of cool, that they found. But besides that, the opening's boring. I like a horror movie that's going to catch me with something right in the beginning. That's what I like. And then also I was like, wait, why are there dogs fighting by it? I don't know what was the purpose of that. Like, but by Pazuzu, I don't know. They try to say the dogs are possessed. I have no idea.
Dogs sense evil.
I said the mother I don't think she is a great actress, but also she's an actress in this movie. And then that was its whole different thing, which I didn't think, why was that in the movie? Her acting and showing the filming, like what was the purpose of that? You know what I mean? I don't know what that was about. And then I said the father, like the priest, his life is boring. Like, I don't want to see more of his life outside of this. Like, they're showing him at his mother's house. They're showing him this, there, and everywhere. And
they're trying to show how depressed he is, man. He's lost his faith. Don't you remember?
Well, I understand why his life sucks.
He told the other priest, he says, man, get somebody else for this job. I'm not the right person for the job anymore.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, if you rewatch this right now, I feel like, man, it's just hard to.
Let's challenge you. Those in the chat, we're holding 9 strong right now. Go back and watch this movie this weekend. Comment on this video. Tell us on a scale of 1 to 10 your thoughts on it. And right now in this chat, tell us some of your thoughts as Josh continues going through this.
Mike said that I was going to lose all credibility by saying this, but I had to, man. I got to say my truth, right? I got to. But I did write that, Mike, that the priest has lost his faith, and I get that, or whatever. His mother died during the time of the movie. I wrote slow build, me. I've commented on every horror movie that we've watched that has a slow build. If that's Friday the 13th, not Friday the 13th. If that was the original Halloween, had a very slow build. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre had a very slow build, and I comment on that because I like something that's going to catch me in the beginning. You know what I mean? And the original Friday the 13th had something that caught me in the beginning because they killed that cook at the beginning, remember? And that was like, oh, okay, cool. There's something going on. There's somebody out here trying to do something. I did write Father Karras thinks he's Rocky. I don't want to hit on that again. I said the detective is a goof. I couldn't stand the detective, Mike. I agree with you. Like, it was dumb. Like, he was a goof. I just said a build up and then a big letdown at the end where it was just nothing. So that's what I gotta say about the movie. Mike, is there anything that you agree with me on with my dislikes, or that you would like to say that you disagree with what I say on the dislikes?
Well, again, this is not a religious show. It's hard not to bring this up with this movie being about the Exorcist and about demons. We're not going into a Bible study or anything like that. But
right.
If you grew up Pentecostal or you ever went to a Pentecostal church and you heard people speaking in tongues, you heard some craziness going on, you heard people that you thought had something on them, a demon or something. This could definitely make you question this, if this could really be real or not. I totally agree with you. I thought this movie, I'm a big fan of 90 minutes. You'll hear me say that over and over again. To me, if a horror movie cannot tell it in 90 minutes, they don't need to tell it at all. This movie was 2 hours. I think they could have easily cut 30 minutes out of it. And it would have grabbed your attention and it got you out of it a lot quicker.
Wasn't it over 2?
Like 2 hours and 3 minutes. It wasn't the one I watched was like 2 hours and 3 minutes or something like that.
Right.
But me growing up in a church, my parents were pastors and all that kind of stuff. Not my parents, my grandparents. It really got to me. And I'm not Catholic. But I think it did start out slow. To me, the first 30 minutes is really kind of boring. Now, hearing the rats upstairs and stuff like that, that sets the stage for down the road what's coming in. I like the family that was there. That was, I guess it was like the maid and the family living there helping them out. They were hearing things. They're like, no. And then you also, during one part of the movie, you saw the crucifix. I mean, when Reagan takes that crucifix and starts stabbing herself in the private part, saying F me and saying that kind of language. Yep. Also, when she tells the Karras to go F the other priest, I mean, you don't hear it, babe. Back in the 70s when I grew up and I was 10, 12 years old, if I even said fart, I would have got the hell knocked out of me, man. Back then it's a different time period. And you're taking kids to see this movie. Some adults were back then, but adults were going here. And I know in the South, they were like, oh my God, what's going on? I just think the cultural part of this movie, it set the stage for every possession movie going forward. There's nothing this movie had Ouija boards back in the 70s and 80s, especially the 70s, late 60s, 70s. Ouija boards were like, no, don't have them. It's got Ouija boards in the movie. It's got rock and roll music. It's got, I mean, to me, it set the stage. I think a lot higher of it than you do. And it's probably because of our age difference, in all honesty. Now, going back and watching it now, I can definitely see 30 to 40 minutes need to be taken out of this movie.
Oh, it's so painfully boring in parts, Mike.
But when Reagan is possessed and in that bed and the green vomit coming out, the green stuff just spewing out onto the priest's purple, it's not a robe, but the thing goes around like a scarf type thing. I don't remember what the religious term is for it. That is scary stuff, man. And then those open wounds and the talking. The person in real life that did this was a lady that said she was a voice coach, I believe she said, and she to get that voice of Reagan, she drank bourbon, whiskey, smoked cigarettes, and then the other sound, I don't know if y'all knew this or not, and there's some facts I'd like to bring up here in a little bit about the movie. Those were pig squealing. going to slaughter. And what they did is they took the sound of that and like slowed it down and sped it up to make some of those sounds going on with the voice of Reagan. Not a lot of jump scares. When that head turned around, that's a vision in my head. When I think of the Exorcist, I
Right.
picture Reagan's head turning around backwards and how that freaked me out as a kid.
Right. But I think back then in 1973, it was just easier to believe something like this. But like now today, it's just not. I mean, to me, it's not. It's not feasible. It's not going to happen. There's no video proof of anything like that happening, in my opinion. And so it's just a movie. It's a movie for a movie. And so I didn't get scared at all. Like I said, I was expecting a jump scare too, maybe like her like lunging out of the bed or, something. Because even like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre had a jump scare. You know what I mean? So I thought maybe, but it didn't have any. But it was, like I said, it was really good. The parts where she was possessed and stuff, I liked it. And
see, I never seen the version. Now here Justin Brown says the walking down the stairs always creeped me out. I never seen that. Well, I have not seen that version.
Well, I didn't watch that version, but I just watched a clip on YouTube like 5 years ago.
Now, see, a good example here is D&G says the original Halloween is kind of boring to me. I absolutely love that movie. It's my favorite horror movie all the time, and I don't think it's boring at all.
I agree with Gregory. I think it's kind of boring too. Honestly, I do. But once it kicks into gear, I like it. But again, the first 30-35 minutes are boring to me.
The first what?
Yeah.
The young 5-year-old, 6-year-old goes up and stabs and kills his sister within the first 7 or 8 minutes of the movie. You think that's boring?
That's good.
So I think your wife said this with Adventures Ahead said that I think we are more or somebody said it that we're desensitized with stuff like this nowadays. I do think that's true.
Yeah,
back
definitely.
then you didn't see this was not something common you saw. Now every movie you see, The Nun 2,
yep.
Conjuring,
yep. You're
all
right.
those
You're
movies
100% right.
Same thing over and over again. You see it, and but back then you didn't see that in this movie.
Right. No, 100%. I 100% agree with that. I remember an uncle of mine telling me about it, and he was like, "This movie is blah blah blah, really scary." When I was a kid, so I just thought it was. But I never seen it. You know what I mean? But it's always regarded very highly by a lot of people. I mean, it's gotten mentions in other horror movies before. The original Scream does mention it. Billy Loomis does in the beginning. It's been mentioned in other horror movies. It's been parodied a lot in different horror movies, like comedy horror movies. It's definitely had a impact on the culture of horror movies. I mean, definitely. I mean, we're here talking about it today in 2023, Mike. So that's all you got to say.
It's 50 years old today.
That's
or not today. Yeah. Another thing, did you notice that it took place at Halloween?
It did?
There's a scene where they show kids running up and down the street trick-or-treating.
Oh.
It's a quick 2 to 3 second like that.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
I never really knew that. When we watched it the other day, I rewound it and watched it again. And there's 2 little kids holding their mama's hand, and one's got a pumpkin as a like a jack-o'-lantern, and the other one had something else white that they were like going trick-or-treating.
Are you trying to say this is in the Halloween universe, Mike?
It may be. So let's go over some real quick, Josh. Real quick.
Oh, I thought maybe you could read a couple things from the chat real quick.
All right. Is Michelle doing it or me?
No, you.
Okay, so there's not a lot of conversation I'm seeing on this side.
Let me look at Michelle's phone. Hang on.
So Justin said, walking down the stairs got me creeped out. The original Halloween is boring.
Hey, Mike, I can read it.
Okay.
Mike. Keith said, I'm born in the early 80s. Freddy used to give me nightmares. Yeah. I like the original Nightmare on Elm Street is really good in my opinion. Yeah, I'm born in the early '80s as well, Keith, and '83 to be exact. So, 10 years after this movie was made, I was born. Um, D&G said it's good but slow. DG or Gregory said Freddy 2 scared me so much. Paul said Freddy Krueger's mom was a nun. That is true. Freddy Krueger's mom was a nun. So they have to cross that over at some point. Maybe, with the nun. I don't know. Keith said Exorcist is like how Braveheart was for war movies. It changed the genre of movies. Yeah, I agree. It did a lot. I'm not taking any of that away. In my opinions, it's just, I don't know. I just don't think, I personally, for all the hype since I was a little kid, heard about this movie in 2023, it does not hold up in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So, Paul said, I literally grew up on Elm Street. Wow, Paul. Keith said, after The Conjuring 2, I had a nightmare of that nun. That was really cool. She was in that photo on the wall. That was cool in the Conjuring movie, what they did with the nun. Gregory said Nun was not scary, but good. Hey, Keith said 3/6/83. Me and Keith were born in the same year. Yeah, I'm November 23rd, 1983, dude. So not, we're still in the same year, bro. Megs and C says 83 best year. Yeah. So Mike, you want to get to talking about a couple things?
Yeah, just some quick facts.
Yeah, go ahead, bud.
So William Peter Blatty wrote the Exorcist novel in a cabin in California. There was some controversy surrounding the Exorcist R rating. Typically, something like this would have got an X rating, but by giving it an R rating, they basically were saying that adults could take their kids to see this movie. It said the police in Washington D.C., because this movie takes place in Georgetown, Washington D.C. area, threatened to arrest anyone who sold a ticket to an Exorcist to any non-adults.
Okay.
UK audiences had a hard time finding the Exorcist for many, many years. The name of the demon in the Exorcist was Pazuzu. We talked about that.
Yep.
Mercedes McCambridge provided the voice of the demon.
That's not a real demon, right? That's not or is that a real fictional demon?
It is a fictional demon.
I mean, I meant like a real demon in like
not the Bible,
not the Bible, but in some kind of religion.
Yeah, it's a Mesopotamian and Assyrian culture. That demon Pazuzu was actually the guarder of a home to protect against other demons, but it was still considered one of the meanest or cruelest demons out there. It would kill other demons. I know if that makes sense, but
so it's kind of like in some kind of like horror movies, they just make up a demon. It's not even real. Kind of like, well, in Hereditary, King Payman was actually like a demon in the Bible or whatever. But like, okay, so it does come from somebody's religion somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
And it says The Exorcist was the very first horror film to be nominated for Best Picture Oscar. Let's see. Linda Blair's mother loved The Exorcist, so that's why she told her daughter to try out for it. Marlon Brando was the studio's first choice for Father Merrin. Didn't know that.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yep.
The guy that played Father Merrin, though, did really well, I thought.
These Exorcist steps are still a popular tourist attraction today. People still go and see those steps.
Okay, cool.
So throwing anyone down the Exorcist stairs from Reagan's window would be impossible if you actually saw the real place.
Okay.
So many of the Exorcist's cast and crew members believe the set was cursed. Filming in the U.S. took place in both New York City and Washington, D.C. after a number of eerie incidents on the New York City set, including a studio fire that forced the team to rebuild the set of the house. Blatty and Friedkin regularly brought in a priest, Father King, to bless the cast, crew, and set when production was moved to DC. By the end of the film's production, 9 people associated with it making had passed away.
Okay.
Let's see.
So like all the cast and crew was Catholic, or
I don't know.
Wouldn't you need that? Well, for that to work, wouldn't you need that to probably for them to believe that it was going to work? I don't know. It seems like
I think he was throwing up a Hail Mary over everybody. The Exorcist Reagan preferred Anderson's pea suit. So the pea suit that was projecting from Reagan's face actually was supposed to hit the chest of the priest, but hit his glasses, and that was a real reaction to him kind of being shocked that it hit him in the face.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Several versions of The Exorcist have been released, director's cut. And yeah, that's about it. It's also about to get a reboot with the new one coming out.
Do you want to talk about that reboot, Mike, or do you want to give our ratings first and then we can talk about
I think we go through and we just finally, cut the cord and let you go ahead and get it out. I want you to get it out of your system.
I want to hear what yours is first.
No, I'm not telling you mine first, Josh. We're going to end this on a good point. We're not ending on a bad point.
Well, what do you mean? So we do a rating 1 out of 10. 10 being the best. 5 is average, right, Mike? 5?
I haven't said 5 is average.
So, man, I mean, I know how much this movie is meant to a lot of people and what it did, but I'm not rating it on that. That's not what I'm taking. The rating is my own personal experience with the movie. All that other stuff is out the window for me. Man, I mean, the half the movie was really boring. Half the movie was good. So that's where I'm at, Mike. The movie's getting a 5.
Well, that's better than your wife because your wife gave it a 4. Paul gave it a 9.5.
Okay.
Chat, please give us your score on it. Some of you gave it earlier. Give it to us again. So I'm going to give this movie, Josh, you know how much I talk about this movie. What do you think I'm going to give it?
I don't know, man. Probably a score that's way too high.
Tell me what you think.
I'm going to say you're going to give it an 8. Because you could listen. I think an 8 because you understand that this movie is pretty boring in places.
I'm giving it a 7.5. 7.5, not an 8. I'm going a little lower because of the boredom of the movie. I still really love the movie though. Now I can fast forward 30. I can fast forward 30 minutes in the movie and be fine. Watch the other.
How many times you watching this year, Mike? Just wondering.
I've watched it twice this past year. Before that, I hadn't watched it in probably 10 years.
Okay.
So it's not a regular movie I watch.
Okay.
I have watched it with my son, and it freaked him out. He says it's one of the scariest movies he's seen. He's really scared by it. So we got some. So Justin Brown gives it a 6.
Okay.
Adventures Ahead. Oh my gosh, Mike will get it 11. First of all, I've never gave a movie a perfect score. There is no perfect movie. Meg says 9.5. Paul says 9.5. I guess the Traveling Gilberts aren't in here anymore. I don't see a score from them.
No.
I see the Cruising Koozies are in here. What would they give it? Let's see what they say.
Mike, we're at 13 strong right now, bro.
Yeah, let me tell Michelle to get off the internet then. Michelle, you don't have to be on the internet no more. You can get off now.
We got some more.
So we got Cruising Koozie says 5. They didn't like it. DNG says 8. Keith says 8.
Keith. Okay, Keith. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to give it a 5 just because of the boredom. But like I said, if you split if I watch this movie, like a fan edit, where they removed a half hour to 40 minutes of this movie, I think I'd like it a lot better.
Oh, so Meg says this is a 13 on a Friday.
Yeah, I don't think so. Mike's giving it 5 stars. No, but seriously, Mike, I'm surprised by that. I thought you'd go a little higher, but I understand why you would give it because, like, you can't. I mean, if you sit down and watch this movie, you would have to admit that it is boring in spots, like very boring. I mean, it just is. And
I don't like the first. the first 30 minutes of it, in all seriousness, I could just fast forward through all of it.
I think, listen, so let's talk about this for a minute. So they made sequels. They made Exorcist 2, Heretic, and I heard that movie's awful. I don't know that, but I've heard it's awful. They made Exorcist 3, which I've heard is actually a direct sequel to the original, and it's really good, I've heard. It's underrated. It also happened to be Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite movie. But besides that, um, then I think they made a couple more after that, Mike. And I think they made one, you know how like the beginning where that priest was digging in the desert for stuff? I think they made a movie about that. So that probably is horrible.
First of all, he was in northern Iraq, Josh. It wasn't in just the desert anywhere. He was in northern Iraq.
Okay, well, I think they made a movie about him digging there. So like that sounds like a horrible movie.
I thought that was Jurassic Park.
Hey, so listen. So that brings up a point. There is a new Exorcist movie coming out, Mike. And there's a lot of excitement around it, but then there's also a lot of worry about it. I would say.
This is my concern.
When is this Exorcist movie coming out, Mike? I think the 6th, right? October 6th?
October the 6th, the week before Taylor Swift's movie comes out.
Yep. So yeah, this movie was originally coming out October 3rd, and then Taylor Swift put her concert out as a movie or whatever it is out on the 13th, and so they moved it to the 6th because they didn't want to get blown out by Taylor Swift movie. So they moved it to October the 6th. Now listen, the trailers for this movie, they don't look bad. I think the premise looks okay. They are bringing back the mother from the original movie, and I mean, we got to get Linda Blair in this, I feel like, but I don't know if we are going to get her in that. Maybe an after credit scene, we might get her. But the movie doesn't look bad. I want to definitely give it a shot.
So my wife gave this a 6 out of 10.
Oh, okay. So dang,
she's lower than you, Mike. We just watched it this week. Huh?
She's lower than you.
I feel really good that she married me now because her standards must be really high.
Mike, do you want to read some of these comments? I seen some pass by.
Yes, Cruising Koozie says, I'm glad I'm not alone besides the scary parts that terrified me to death. It's boring. Now I probably won't watch it again. Cruising Koozie says it's slow. D&G Explorer says there is a prequel to this movie.
Yeah, that's the one where he's digging in Iraq, I think, Mike, honestly.
So Ventures Ahead, which is Michelle, says, honest, I would have turned this off because it's so slow. Now, if this was the first horror movie I'd ever seen, it would have been different, but it wasn't, and it honestly just couldn't keep my attention. Michelle, my wife, says 6 out of 10. Meg says, I'll rewatch it tonight and see if my rating stands up. I haven't watched it in a couple of years. That's good, Meg. Check it out this weekend or tonight. Cruising Koozie, sequel stunk from what I can remember. Don't think I saw the third. D&G says it's a trilogy, so she could be in them. No, right. She didn't want to be part of it. I'm going to watch it again. Antoinette at Fun says I'm going to watch it again. So I don't recall watching the second one. I know Linda Blair's in it. Right. I have heard good things about 3.
Yeah. Yep.
Now let's talk about the one coming out here. We've done a review on it, a reaction from the channel for it. Right. It's one of those. This is the thing about The Exorcist to me.
Yeah.
It did everything in that movie that could be done other than jump scares. That no other movie could do that. But
there's two. But there's 2 girls this time.
Yes.
Hey, isn't this the same director that did the Halloween trilogy?
Josh, why do you always go back to Halloween? You always go back to the Halloween End series when we talk about horror movies.
Mike, is that true?
You better hope Scream 7 is good, because if Scream 7 is a stinker, you'll never live it down.
Mike, is it the same director?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that worries me.
I have no faith in him.
That worries me, dude, because
I have more faith in the priest and the Exorcist than I do that kind of thing.
Because Kills was okay, and we know how Ends is horrible.
Sporting Jason tonight. Friday 13th's coming up.
Yeah, so that makes me a little worried. I can't remember the guy's name. Michelle, will you look up the director of the new Exorcist movie?
So Antoinette at Fun says she gave it an 8, and she's going to watch it again. What else we got over here? It looks disturbing. So I may go see this movie at the theater. Wait, is the Exorcist? It's only at the theater, right? It's not coming straight on like
I
Peacock or
thought it
anything.
said Peacock. His name is David Gordon Green, Mike,
Yeah.
and he is doing the Exorcist franchise. It's the 6th installment. Wait, it's a story. Listen, by Scott Teems, Danny McBride, my guy.
Oh my
But
God.
he's also helped write the Halloween franchise, and Green. So I am worried about this, to be honest, Mike. I really am, but I am going to give it a shot because I think the trailers don't look bad, in my opinion.
One thing I would love to see, though, and this is the honest to God's truth. Had to throw that in there. I would love to see The Exorcist in a movie theater, not on a VHS tape or not at home. There's some movies I think that you see.
Well, Mike, aren't they bringing?
I would like to see the original Halloween at the movie theater. I have not seen the original. I think there's some movies you just see in the movie theater. Now this,
well, Mike,
new Exorcist,
Mike,
I don't care about.
Mike, I shared on our page that for like a week or two, Exorcist is in theaters coming back right now.
Okay.
So if you look for it, you might be able to find it
locally. I need to go look and see. I did show you a drive-in movie. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, there'll be some good horror movies at the drive-in movie theater. That we have one about 30 miles away in Mount Airy, North Carolina. I hope Halloween or something like that is playing on the drive-in theater, and me and Anthony's going to go up there and see it.
Yeah. I got a chance to see some movies that I always like watching growing up playing in the theater in the last 15 years. And it was a really cool experience to rewatch those movies, even though I've seen them a million times. Like not that it's a horror, but I saw Terminator 2 in the theater. That was awesome to re-see that. Army of Darkness, which is kind of a horror movie. I saw that in the theater. It was amazing. I mean, it's just cool to see those movies that you've seen a million times, but it's still cool to see them on the big screen, Mike.
I totally agree. But let me ask you a question. I asked the Chet a question here too. We're up to 13 strong now. Bam. This movie is 50 years old, 1973.
Right.
Name, and I think I got one or two that may be better, but name a better horror movie than this prior to 1973.
Oh, dude, I don't know. Psycho
would be on my list. Probably the number one.
Prior
some of those in here that can go back a little bit on the horror movies. What is older than 1973 that's why, in my opinion, I think I'm kind of copying what the Gilbert said early on, is it set a standard there for horror movies that was way ahead of its time for back then.
But listen, when you're reviewing a movie and giving your ranking, I don't think that should have an impact on your ranking. Like, it just shouldn't, in my opinion, because you're giving your overall view of what you think the movie is at that time when you're watching it, not what it meant 50 years ago. That's how I'm taking it. And that's why I gave it a 5.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to judge something that way. Because, like, in all honesty, if you took each Scream movie by themselves, they're not it's not that great of a movie. I mean, you take it, some of the Halloweens are not that great of a movie by themselves.
Scream 1 blows Exorcist out of the water.
It's what they do ahead of time. There's nothing in Scream 1 that hadn't been done before in other movies. There's nothing in that movie that had not been done before.
Wait a minute.
A mass killer? A mass killer?
What about two
slashers killing teenagers?
2 killers that you didn't know who the identity was, and you didn't know it was 2 killers. Has that been done before in a movie?
I'd have to go back and think. I probably can't say that it has for sure.
This is him making blatant statements. Oh, this never been done before. Everything's been done. Oh, wait, maybe that hasn't been done.
So you had 2 killers. Is that's the only thing you say about it? Come on, give me something else.
The opening kill scene is incredible, and like, there's not much that can. I mean, what can top that?
It's a good kill scene. Okay. So, I mean, what's so unique about it, though? You've seen good kill scenes in a lot of movies, man.
I know, but like the phone call at the beginning, who did that in the movie, Mike?
You hear Josh? He's getting excited now. D&G's going to have your back on this one, but Gregory's going to have your back on this. You see how passionate Josh gets about Scream.
Oh,
That's
I love
how
it.
I am about the original Halloween in some of
Sure.
these older movies like this. Yeah.
To me, Scream does not have boring moments in it like Halloween. I mean, that's just me though.
Yeah, it's
Hey, and
part of it.
Scream, and listen, in Scream 2, I feel like is a really worthy sequel. It's really good. I mean, it's on par with the original. I mean, we don't this ain't a Scream cast, but you're the one
Right.
that brought Scream up. But I think 1 and 2 are really solid. Um and Halloween 1, I didn't say Halloween 1's bad, Mike. I like it. Obviously, I like Michael Myers. But you know what? I haven't seen Halloween 2 in a long time, but we will be reviewing that next month, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a special guest to do how all three of the last trilogy of Halloween. So
Oh,
Josh
so
can
yeah,
finally, yeah,
so we'll
Josh
be
can.
we'll be going live October 1st to let people know that.
That's a week
October
from
1st
this
we are,
Sunday, right?
yeah. Uh this next Sunday we are going live again, and it's going to be me, Mike, and Mike. Who else is going to be here with us?
The OG, the G out of the D and G, the DO double G, Gregory from D and G Explorers.
Yes, and we're going to be talking
He,
about the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy. So 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, and it should be a fun show, guys.
yeah,
Right, Mike?
Cruising with Keith says The Shining is one of the best in his opinion. So that
Oh
is a
yeah,
good movie.
Shining's brilliant. Shining is brilliant,
Yep, really good movie.
and it. I mean, and it never. It's like, and I don't think there's boring. I don't think there's ever a boring part in The Shining. I think it starts building from the minute you start watching that, where it shows the hills and the all that. Minute you start watching that movie, it builds all the way through until a great ending. So, like, that movie is phenomenal in my opinion. I mean, we did a review on it, and I think both of us just talked about how great it
It's a
was.
really, really good movie.
Yeah, definite.
So Josh,
So,
what movie are we doing next Friday? Tell everybody what we're doing next
okay,
Friday.
so next Friday we are going to have a review, not a live, but a review of I think the 1987 cult classic, The Monster Squad. Though it's kind of broke out of the cult status and really became a classic because they sell T-shirts, they sell all kinds of merch for this now, and they're actually in November they're bringing out a 4K Blu-ray release with a ton of extras about Monster Squad. So that's huge. I mean, that's not a cult classic anymore, in my opinion, when you do something like that.
So I'm
So
not going to wait 50 years like Josh before I watch this. I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch Monster Squad for the first time as soon as this show's over.
yes, I think you'll appreciate it because of the care they took with like the classic monsters. They couldn't use the exact, they couldn't use the exact names and different things, but yeah, I think you'll like that, Mike, about the movie and the practical effects you'll appreciate. Hey, Gregory says he loves Monster Squad. So
yeah,
wait, what did
Michelle says
Michelle
I
say
watched it
here?
for the first time a few years ago and I liked it.
Yeah. It's fun. It's just a fun movie, Mike. It's not meant to take serious but it's just a fun movie. So
Well, I'm a big fan of Goonies, and Gregory said it was like Goonies in his opinion. So
it's kind of like Goonies with the classic monsters. That's what's cool
okay,
about it. Yep. And like I said, it's one of those movies that was made in the late 80s, so not everything is you know what I mean.
right.
It's 80s. So but yeah, it's good. It's good. So okay, I think we're good though, right, Mike? We had a really good show.
We're good. We appreciate everybody coming in here tonight. We had a good crowd and good conversations and a lot of fun. And hey, that's the thing about movies. Not everybody's going to like everything.
That's right.
And that's the great thing about the horror genre is we all have our likes and dislikes. We also have things that may scare us that doesn't scare other people. I like jump scares. Josh doesn't like a lot of jump scares. I like jump scares now.
I like some. I don't like it overdone. Like to me, the Conjuring series is a classic example of way too many jump scares. It could have been a better movie if there wasn't so many jump scares.
And that's just like the Insidious series. A lot of people love the Insidious series. I know Gregory loves the D&G loves.
Those were horrible.
And I couldn't get into them. I just had to stop after about the third one. I'd stop. But
So, Mike, I want to say something on here. It could be fun for like you to pick a movie and me to pick a movie, and then we have like a discussion or slash argument which one is better, and we give our points of which one we think is better. That could be a fun show, Mike.
yeah. How would we do that though? Because each of us would know what the other one's watching, right?
I mean, not necessarily.
Unless you picked a movie for me to watch and I picked one for you to watch, like one of our
Yeah,
favorites or something.
maybe we should think about this. That could be a fun live show, Mike.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, we'll talk to you guys. We'll talk to everyone later. Thank you
We'll see y'all later. Let's go
streaming,
watch Monster Squad.
Yeah, see you, dude. See ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.